Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. Monday evenings, 9 p.m. IST is Ask Abhijit time. And today, Abhijit and I are going to discuss a couple of evolving events around the world. The first one is what is happening in Iraq, an assassination attempt that got foiled. And also, we're going to talk about the CCP plenary session that has just started in China. Without further ado, let's welcome our guest of the evening, Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. Abhijit, namaskaram and welcome to PGurus.
Vetrivel. I said it before you stole my line. Last 2-3 times you've stolen my line. So I will say, so I'm sorry I jumped in, but Vetrivel, I said it first.
You did. And as always, I respond back with Vetrivel, Veeravel, and Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha to start with. And before we jump into our session today, I just want to encourage all our members to become, all those who are not members yet, to become, if you become a platinum member today, that's $99 a month. And don't worry, you can discontinue a subscription whenever you feel like it. We are not going to hold you up to it. So we will send this to you free if you happen to be in the United States. This is a set of coasters, but actually they are what is called as kolam in Tamil, muggu in Telugu, and elsewhere called rangoli. Now, this performed a very important ecological service, which is that this used to be usually made use of rice flour. And in the morning before or just around sunrise, the lady folk and sometimes the men folk would put the kolam, and then by 8-9 you would see all these squirrels and sparrows, crows come and eat it. And this was somewhere where you are trying to help the ecosystem around you. So please, those of you who are not familiar with this concept, please do use this, and you can also do a kolam in your houses, and I'm sure once you do it, you will find birds coming and eating out of it, and they just start visiting your house. So these things are very, very simple to do. First one is a simple one, then it gets a little bit more complicated, but you get all these beautiful patterns. And the important thing here, if you're starting out first, is to first put the dots. You start by putting the dots, and then the designs come around that. Anyway, so without further delay in time, let us get Abhijit in to weigh in on the recent happenings in Iran and Iraq. Abhijit, I don't know if you read this or not. In Iraq, there was an election, and looks like there was an assassination attempt using a drone. And when challenged, Iran is now saying we didn't send it, although one of the militias backed by them was the one who has been identified as a perpetrator. Your thoughts on what happened there?
Look, this is a pattern of Iran using drones. You remember the attack on the Saudi refinery?
Yes.
Where we clearly knew the flight pattern, everything showed that those drones had come from Iran. Right? So there was, this is now becoming a standard trajectory for Iran to use drones because it can completely deny it. The plausible deniability that exists is quite significant. And remember, they've been trying to interfere in Iraq for a very, very long time. The net result of the American invasion of Iraq in 2003 was the fact that it essentially handed over the country to Iran. Now, even there, Iran is finding it difficult to keep control because remember, Arab Shias are very different from non-Arab Shias. They have their own fealty to different ayatollahs and things like that. And, it's fine. When you are oppressed by Saddam Hussein, you see that kind of proximity with Iran. But the moment you get your freedom and you become the dominant player in your country, you don't want that overweening association with Iran. You want your own space, you want your own independence and things like that. So this is one more attempt by Iran to, kind of assert its control over Iraq, which is very important in the supply lines to assisting the Assad government in Syria.
Wonderful. And now let's take a look at what is happening in China. The CCP plenary session just reconvened, and they have confirmed that Xi is going to be the next emperor for life. Abhijit, there were a lot of talk. There was a lot of talk going on about attempted coup, especially if you look at the coal demand situation in China, where they are now forced to, I believe, have 2-day weeks and 3-day weeks. And one wonders how all those people living in multi-storied buildings are coping up when there is no power for extended periods of time. So, do you know about this? How much do you know? Is now the rebellion quelled and Xi is the emperor for life?
Look, Xi is in a very unique position. When I heard about this rebellion, I was laughing because there was no way it was going to succeed. It's like rebellions against Mao Zedong never succeeded because, the way any communist party works, once you achieve control through either purges or rewards or whatever, your position is absolutely consolidated. There is no removing you from power in the same way Stalin couldn't be removed from power. Okay, sorry. Yeah. So what happens is that you simply can't go around removing these people, number one. Especially the way Xi has consolidated power. Nobody, not even Mao Zedong, managed to consolidate power this way. Because remember, the rebellions against Mao Zedong were in fact much stronger. Mao Zedong was forced to take sannyas, political sannyas, for 1 or 2 years. And then he would come back with a bang. Xi Jinping doesn't even have to do that. That is the strength of the way in which he's consolidated his hold on power out there. Now, what has happened in this particular case is that there was talk of a rebellion, which was never going to happen. It fizzled out. But all the problems with the Chinese economy are coming home to roost. The first problem is the ghost cities. Beijing itself, I mean, everybody talks about Inner Mongolia and things like that, but Beijing itself, as we've discussed on this program, most of the buildings that you see, the residential buildings, have no cars in the basement, have no lights on at night. And yet in the mornings, there's traffic jams, so you don't know where these people are coming from. Then you have the problem, in most other countries, people will go out and sit on the road saying, please employ me, I am jobless. China is in the unique position where factory owners sit out on the road saying, I have jobs, please come work for me. And there's a reason, because see, there's a whole lie flat movement happening in China, where the Chinese have decided that instead of doing backbreaking labor in a factory, it is easier to, take 6 days in a week off and do just odd jobs one day, delivery and things like that. And you make the bare minimum enough to survive, enough to pay your rent in a small, tiny little hut and get all the food that you want. The next issue has been that a lot of the motivation for Xi Jinping going against the services sector, like home delivery, like Jack Ma and things, of course, it had to do with political dissent as well. But it equally had to do with the fact that they can't afford a service industry. Remember, the service industry is what lifts. The manufacturing is a small part. It's usually 25% of a developed economy, 18 to 25%. And the rest is services, which lifts the rest of the population over a certain income level. Now, China can't afford to lift those people over a certain income level because it needs its workers to remain at a certain price point. So it's controlling labor artificially. Now, when you artificially control it, it's obviously a labor to price mismatch. People don't want to work for those wages. Then what is happening is they crack down on services so that the services sector kind of goes down. And it forces people that there are no service jobs for people, and therefore they are forced to work in factories. So there's all kinds of, Xi Jinping is essentially making holes in the swimming pool and then trying to fix other holes that other people have created because of the pressure. That is what is happening. And, this is the problem with all command economies. Every action has consequences that you never anticipate. Now, in a normal free market economy, these things kind of tend to balance out. In a command and control economy like China, the government doesn't have the bandwidth to be able to work on multiple things. So there are multiple things coming home to roost all at the same time.
Wonderful, Abhijit. And now let's jump into questions. And we start off with questions from last week that we could not get to. Pradeep Kumar Sadayappan wants to know how conflict economy works. How can we de-conflict Kashmir's economy?
So look, conflict economy, I'd suggest you go into Google and read. There's lots of basic stuff on conflict economy, which I'm not going to get to. Now, in Kashmir, there's several things. The police was incentivized in terrorism. The politicians were definitely incentivized into terrorism because remember, their lives depended on delivering certain small things that Pakistan required. For example, Mehbooba Mufti forcing CRPF and army bunkers out from the city center into the peripheries of the city, which kind of created a small liberated zone where terrorism could bloom. So these were things that Pakistan wanted.
Has this been changed now? Hang on.
No, well, not particularly. It's kind of been changed, but not completely.
Please continue.
The third was businesses. Okay, because most of the businesses, there was no real production and business happening out there. It was all living off money laundering and things like that on an illegal economy. Because remember, when there is terror attacks and things, the whole town shuts down. And the number of working days disrupted and things like that is very significant. So all of that had to be dealt with. Then the fourth thing was, remember, the army is also invested in it. Because encounters determine your future and your promotions and your medals and things like that. So nobody looks good in a conflict economy. Everybody's sorry to use the word, but everybody's a bastard in a conflict economy. And that needed to be systematically deconflictized, right? The problem in Kashmir, again, was the amount of dependency. Almost 60% of the workforce depends on conflict. Why? Because there was no economic activity happening. The major source of employment was government jobs, their dependence, etc., etc., etc. So all of that government patronage system itself has to be removed, which nothing has happened on. I mean, we've been sacking, say, Gilani's son from government service and things like that, but the rest of it continues as is. The sort of overstaffing of government jobs, that continues as is, right? So that dependence on a sort of state feeding you, literally hand feeding you, that also needs to go, because the only reason that was done was because of conflict. So all of this needs to go. It's a very, very complex thing. I would definitely urge you to read Carl Bildt, the former Swedish Prime Minister, on the Kosovan economy that emerged once NATO liberated, quote unquote, Kosovo.
Wonderful. And let's go to the next question. Arvind S. wants to know, will Indian cities switch to car-only mode of transport with proper lane system like the developed countries do? Are any of the cities working in this direction?
None. I'll tell you why. Because unlike Europe, which planned its cities organically and then wanted to sort of build around them. I'm not saying that's optimal. For example, I certainly wouldn't want to be squished into a tiny, horrible little apartment in Paris or Rome, for that matter. But lots of people wouldn't mind it, because in Europe, you go out for your relaxation time. In India, you come back into the house because the outside is so chaotic. In India, what is happening is there was atrocious planning, truly atrocious city planning, which never accounted for the next 40, 50 years in the future. So there's severe bad planning happening, and there is none of the will to get your urban planning in order. When people, very capable ministers, I know for a fact Hardeep Puri tried, what do you do when the bureaucracy is not willing to go with you? When the bureaucracy doesn't even understand the basics involved in it. They've been taught something about urban planning that was valid 60 years back. The syllabus hasn't changed since then. So they want to implement the same plans, like only four stories high in the center, kind of nonsense, which doesn't really work. Is there the will to do it? For example, are you willing to incentivize the building of high rises by trusted builders, not all these builders who've been squatting on land? This is the other problem. All your builders are crooks who've been squatting on land, building buildings, creating ghost cities where the occupancy is non-existent. The other day I was at Magnolia, which is this very posh golf estate around Gurgaon golf course. You look at it at night, 90% of the flats in that complex, Aralia, Magnolia, and there's one more flower name, this thing, petunia, God knows what. 90% of them are empty. They're not lit up at night. And you're thinking this is ultra posh people. There are industrialists living there. Almost every second car in the park is a Rolls Royce or a Ferrari or something like that. But you're seeing why is only 10 to 15% occupied. In the newer flats, it gets even worse. Right? It's only 3 or 4 occupied out of about 400-500 that you can see. So there is clearly a problem where these people are sitting and artificially bloating prices. We thought RERA was going to sort that problem out. It's clearly not sorted that problem out. There's a very strong lobby that prevents you from sorting that out. One of the easy things to do would have been to say, how much property do you currently own? We will give you, so say example, you have a house sitting on a 300 square yard plot. So 300 square yard and you've built, say, a 4,000 square foot house in there. You tell them 4,000 square feet house that you have plus X and Y in front garden. I will give you a flat with this much balcony space in lieu of garden and 4,000 square feet flat. And you condense it all, compress it all. But you can't even do that. So there is no political will. There is no planning. Nobody is looking at the master plan. Why? Because our prime minister is constantly involved in micromanagement. You need somebody to, just give up the micromanagement and say, I want you to take all the big decisions. Leave it to the bureaucrats to find the small solutions, because if they don't, they're going to get sacked. Because remember, anything joint secretary and above is entirely the pleasure and gift of the prime minister. You don't have to make an IAS officer a joint secretary if you don't want to.
Well, a lot of stuff to pour over there. And I hope some of the Babus are listening. Guys, you are getting constant Fs from Abhijit Iyer-Mitra. And he had a ringside view growing up because both his parents are IAS officers. So please reflect. And I think some advice for Mr. Modi also. Next question from Aditya369. Do you think the blame should have been more on the BCCI management than the players themselves? Choosing out-of-form team, taking the knee, etc. We're talking about the knee part.
Look, I don't talk about cricket because I know as much about cricket as Virat Kohli knows about social justice, or for that matter, in education. He's just a high school pass, if that at all. I think he's a 7th class dropout or something like that, God knows, but definitely no college. What I can tell you is that there is 2 issues out here. One is the BCCI taking the management call, which Virat Kohli, I can completely understand that he can't take these decisions independently. He has to follow management decisions. But you come out supporting Mohammad Shami when all your teammates are getting abused. You choose only to protect him. His teammates before have been trolled. He's never protected them. He himself was being trolled. He made it about religion. He made it about religion because he knows that kind of puts you in a shield where you can no longer be attacked. So he's a little conniving piece of shit himself. Let's not be under any delusions about that. He knows how to manipulate, and that completely arrogant thing that I am on the field because I know cricket and that is why I am not a cricketing troll, a Twitter troll. Okay, perfect. I mean, that's a completely legitimate excuse. The issue is you're also uneducated. You're essentially an unpad village country bumpkin, a typical West Delhi type, low-income West Delhi type, who suddenly become a social climbing yuppie. And with your limited education, you have no bloody business talking about things over your intellectual level. It's that simple. Because remember, the same standard you apply to others applies to you.
Thank you very much, Abhijit. The next question is from Himanshu. Hang on, just 1 second. Yeah, Hetal Chowdhury. What is your opinion of defense analysis provided by Mr. Sani of Force India? Indian defense is not great, but he paints a picture where India looks hopeless against China and Pakistan.
So I agree with a lot of what Mr. Sani says. I disagree with a lot of what he says. Just like you are free to agree and disagree with me. I mean, if you want to think I'm a bald, fat homo idiot, Feel free to. If you think I'm some genius where I'm the next Buddha, the Buddha Alokiteshvara, or what Buddha Maitreya. Maitreya.
Yeah, Maitreya also, right?
Maitreya. You're free to do that, right? So why does it matter what I think about somebody? I pick and choose. I never classify. Well, there are some people who are genuine idiots, where I will not listen to anything they say. But with a lot of other people, I pick, because everybody has good ideas, boss. Never paint somebody just completely, and especially you have to listen to opinions you don't like.
Thank you very much, Abhijit. And viewers, I wanted to show you something. Again, sorry for plugging my own book, but this is Who Painted My State Purple. And this actually was written about 6 months ago. It's in production now, in print now. It's available in print in US, but it's not come to India yet. It will be coming soon. Why I brought it up is Avalokiteshvara, and that is the name of Buddha. And there is also a huge statue of a three-faced Saraswati, I believe, in near Hainan Island. And where is Hainan Island? That's the place where all these nuclear submarine station is. So inadvertently, I picked a few things that are turning out to be right, especially about a character who resembles, I should say, coincidentally, Mr. Xi Jinping. And you have to read the book to understand what is happening. It's a book of fiction, another story told. So I hope that you will support me as much as you did with my previous books. I don't think you've read it. I'll bring you the book for you.
Yes.
So next question is from Himanshu. Is there an option of territory swap with Bangladesh to expand chicken's neck?
There was the territory swap. It was completed in 2014-15, sometime at that point of time.
Those are Kuch Bihar, small pieces. That was very little, right?
Yeah. Those were the enclaves and the exclaves which were kind of rationalized out there.
Right.
But look, like I explained in the last thing, this chicken's neck problem is completely overstated. You know, it works fine in 19th century and pre-19th century warfare. It is not all that relevant to modern late 20th century warfare and early 21st century warfare.
Wonderful. And let's go to the next question here. By the way, if you want more, you should watch the follow-up interview that I had with Dr. Subramanian Swamy. And he also mentioned, he didn't say that chicken's neck was a danger, but China is now completely laid out roads along the edge of Bhutan where they can easily egress into Bangladesh by just cutting across to cut off northeast. That is a huge problem because they are basically given a carte blanche to lay their roads for wherever they want to along the edge of Bhutan. That is what is the latest situation there. Next question from Sai. Why were public works like aqueducts and baths not built by Hindu kings? I don't think so. I think they had some.
Look, there is a big question mark over this. Okay, because we have aqueducts and things like that dating back to the Roman period, to the Tang period in China, things like that. In India, there's a great paucity of these things. The only example we can realistically give is the Grand Anicut, and even there, modern scholarship is telling you there's a big question mark on what exactly it was used for. So there is something to be said about the lack of public infrastructure in India. And this, if you look at certain other YouTube videos I've done on Hinduism, you will see that generally, other than Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Indian empires were extremely low end. Okay, they simply did not create the concentration of public wealth and public goods that other empires did. Not the Roman Empire, not the Byzantine Empire, not the Ottoman Empire, not even the British Empire. And if you want to look at, definitely not the Tang and Ming dynasties in China. And if you want to look at a Hindu civilization, you look at the sheer level of public goods that the Khmer, that the Angkor empires created. You go to Siem Reap, you look at the sheer level, density and scale of architecture. In the Chola Empire, each king will build one temple, one big temple. There is succession, it's temple after temple after temple after temple to employ excess labor. The sheer scale of the inundated rice paddies that they built to harness the waters of the Tonle Sap is incredible. We have nothing like that in India. Right? Where are the bridges? Where are the aqueducts, the drainage canals, the public works? Where are the amphitheaters? Forget amphitheaters. Where are the theaters? Where are the fort walls? No fort can be completely destroyed. In Troy, for example, you have 7 different layers of Troy. Each one was destroyed, and yet you can see that they exist. Where were the fortifications? So there is a very, very big question mark out here. Where were the public goods being created? That's a very big question mark.
Thank you. And viewers, if you get a chance, do visit Angkor Wat. I myself have not, but I have it in my bucket list. And the important thing there is the amount of engineering that was done in and around. And it is believed that when the river changed the course, then the whole thing collapsed because it was from a higher level to a lower level with a series of ducts and ways to cycle the water and so on. Everything changed because the source of the river changed course.
To be fair, it wasn't a permanent change. It was more a weather pattern related change, which was completely unpredictable. But the main thing was the cropping and population density of that area never really changed. It still remained extremely viable in terms of agriculture. The problem was that the destruction wreaked on it was so total that it could never really recover as an empire after that.
Thank you very much. Next question is from Tutul. Seeing today's condition, don't you think we need serious dictatorship? Is a military coup possible? Can we really stop counterattack, left assault?
Okay, look, why do you think a dictatorship is going to solve anything? It is the caliber of leadership that matters, not the mode of government that matters. Because, if you have an idiot for a dictator, you're going to go down the drain. Tell me, what help did dictatorship provide to Pakistan? Till Ayub Khan, everybody used to say, look, Pakistan, we need dictatorship. Pakistan is so far ahead. Where is Pakistan today? Where is India today? So in India as well, if you get a Lee Kuan Yew, good for you. But if you get a Anwar Khoja like in Albania, or a Mao Zedong like in China, you're going to go down the drain like nobody's business. Remember, modern China is the creation of Deng Xiaoping, not Mao Zedong. Mao Zedong was a nasty piece of work. Their per capita income was lower than India when Mao Zedong was in charge. So look at the quality of leadership. This dictatorship versus democracy debate. Italy has had more governments than it has had Christmases since its defeat in the Second World War. Yet it's a G7 country. Right. Germany is a democracy. Japan has been a democracy since the Second World War. They progress just fine.
Next question from Chaitanya YSK. How can I differentiate between fake and real news on China? Are there any YouTube channels or websites that you can recommend to me?
Yes, there is a YouTube channel called China Uncensored. That's a very, very good channel. I suggest you subscribe to it and watch it. But remember, never focus. The way of getting over disinformation and misinformation it is one of the YouTube channels I see, but I see many things. I get my interns, my colleagues really, from another institute to plus some of my interns as well, to do primary source analysis of Chinese newspapers, Weibo and things like that. And I multi-source information. To get an accurate picture, you have to triangulate from different information points. There is no one book. There is no one source of information.
Thank you very much, Abhijit. You could also add PGurus, especially the hangouts we have with Elmer Yuan. We have cross-verified them several times. Elmer is spot on with his data, even though he always couches it with, this is how I see it. So please do also consider watching our channel. By the way, shout out to everybody to like this webcast. We have only 1 in 5 liking this one. Guys, please help us like this thing. You know that Abhijit is full of knowledge and wisdom. You may agree or not agree with him. And if you prick my body, you will get a drop of blood. But if you prick Abhijit's rather ample body, you would get a gram of intelligence. So I'll leave it at that. Let's go. Don't meet him with all pricks with you. He'll call you by other names. So
see, he just encouraged an assassination attempt on me. I'm feeling extremely threatened.
It's merely 1,000 death by 1,000 pricks.
So death by 1,000 pricks, literally. Not just assassination, torture assassination.
But you are an elephant, man. Intellectually.
See how rude! Fat shaming on this channel. Shocking.
Intellectual elephant. I didn't say anything else.
Sure.
Shadow Showdown. Do you think violent groups, BD, put dirt on image of RSS? What is BD? Hey, can you expand this Shadow Showdown, what BD means? I'm going to the next question. We will revert to that later. Harishankar wants to know opinions from both of you on new reservation policy in medical education, even at postgraduate level. It feels unfair on unreserved and leads to serious complications.
Look, I have a very simple view on reservation. Reservation has to be time-bound in the sense you have to expand the entire thing. Here, what's happening is the overall scope of education, the number of colleges, the quality of colleges is simply not expanding. And instead, you're proportioning it to everyone. So I'm not anti-reservation, but I have serious doubts with this because this is just more and more reservation is just a way of failure compensation by the government.
You're absolutely right. And by rule, the reservation is a good thing. However, what is important there is to monitor and make sure that the right candidate gets it. For example, I'm not in favor of continuing reservations for scheduled castes when they have converted to other religions. There's no way that should be happening. Whereas many people are eating the cake and having it too. That is not fair, in my opinion, on the other deserving candidates. Let's move on from there. Next question. Chaitanya again. How can I travel like you for research purposes? Does your think tank give you money for your travels? Of course it does. Go ahead.
No, it does not. I make my own money. I make a heck of a lot of money and I invest it in myself. I eat fine food, I buy fine wine, I smoke very good cigars. I invest in myself. So I suggest you make money, be bloody good at what you do. And there are most researchers that I know in India can't afford what I do. And that's a function of how good you are or not. Because remember, it's not a function of just being good at research. It's a function of how you package your research. It's a function of how good are you at socializing, how easily you slip into social circles, your privilege as well, where you come from. No denying that. So, it's don't take me as the norm. I think think tanks in India normally don't pay very well. I make my money through a lot of other things like track tours and things like that I run, which fund my lifestyle.
Next question, Satish Chandra wants to know, did China lose a lot of its culture in the Cultural Revolution, or was it revived after Deng Xiaoping liberalized the economy?
Look, a lot of it never revived. Because the sheer level, when you kill off 70 million of your own population, you're wiping out centuries and centuries and centuries of tradition. So a lot of it never revived. It was lost for good. Okay. The family structures broke down. The family loyalties broke down in many senses. So the nature of China that you're seeing since 1949 is completely different to the China that you've seen before it. There is some continuity, of course, but it is a very different China.
Now, if you take a look at pictures of Shanghai or any Chinese city in the 1900s, 1920s, 1930s, you will see people dressing up just like Indians did. For example, the hair is shaved, and then they have a kudumi or what you call tiku, I think in Hindi, right? And they have that, and then they all wore panchakacham. So there was a lot of dharmicness that was there, and all that it's all gone now. It's
So,
very, very
so I
unfortunate.
disagree. I disagree about the dharmicness. For the Chinese, they had a very Roman view on religion. Religion is useful as long as it serves a purpose, but there was no sense of dharma in China per se. Because even the Confucian thing, which emphasized a certain goodness and whatever in the current life, was discarded as and when required.
All right, we have to have a separate debate on that. Let's move on to the next question. Shailesh Latkar, what is Iran's plan post-Taliban takeover of Afghanistan? Biden was to lift sanctions on Iran. Is it shelved? Will we be able to buy oil from Iran? We meaning India.
Look, first of all, I don't think it's a good idea buying oil from Iran because Iranian crude production is extremely low quality and it stresses out your refineries much more than other more advanced production techniques in other parts of the world. Number one. Number two, it is an extremely vulnerable source. So do you actually want to do that? Number three, given the Prime Minister's commitment and given Reliance's investment in clean green and Adani's investment in clean green energy, especially hydrogen and solar, the question is, do you even want to go down that path? What is Iran's plan? Well, we still don't know. We still don't know because what the Iranians are doing right now is for them, Afghanistan is priority number 2. Syria has become priority number 2. They are jockeying for a good negotiating position with America so that when the nuclear deal is approved once again, that is to say the JCPOA is approved once again by the Biden administration, they will get extra lollies on the table, if you want to call it that.
Next question from Satish Chandra again. What do you think of Japan's election?
What do I think about it? It's a nationalist party has won again. It's a very good thing.
Okay, now we start with today's questions. And before we do that, I have to plug for this membership again. The membership cost is...
one.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
No, Akshay or Akshat, thank you. Very, very happy birthday to you, buddy. Akshat, happy birthday to you, buddy. May Ma Durga bless you heaps.
Happy birthday, Akshat. Janmadina Shubhecha. And have a great day. It's already evening. I'm sure you are enjoying your day. And all the best. Okay, next, I just wanted to plug for this. If you become a platinum member, and that is $99 a month, but you don't have to have it continue. If you feel like it's not worth it, you can always discontinue. And we will send you this pack of 4 coasters. These are laser cut, to be very, very precise. And the idea of putting it as coasters was that you or your significant other can see this while they are making the muggu, kolam, rangoli, and you can go creative on this. Very, very simple designs. At the same time, they are very nice. They have chakras that have a certain effect on the cosmos. I've been getting some pushback on people saying, "Why are you peddling all these things? You shouldn't be doing that." Look, dharma, religion is each one's own personal preference. I believe that these things do make a change in one's life, especially in a post-pandemic period where you have to also rely on luck and spirituality because you don't know where bad news is going to get you from, and you need that spiritual strength to survive that. Anyway, that's my plug. Let's go to the next question.
No, but hang on just a minute.
Yeah.
What is people's problem in a capitalist peddling their wares? I'm sorry, did you come to our channel thinking we were left-wing? Did you think PGurus was actually socialist gurus? Or do you think Sri Iyer was the name of some Marxist ideologue? We're capitalists and we're proud of it. We're going to peddle whatever we want.
Thank you for that rounding show of support. Next question, please. Z Apple Stuff Z. Should USA shift to metric system instead of imperial, and should Americans shift to water for cleaning instead of toilet paper?
What kind of a question is that? Yes, of course, metric is much more scientific than imperial. And should Americans shift to water instead of... Dude, like how... What kind of a question is that, dude? But yes, of course, it's much more hygienic. And it's much more sustainable as well.
If you will, I just want to add my 2 cents. Z, Apple stuff Z, I don't know what your real name is.
Akshat, he just said, we just wished him for his birthday.
Oh, Akshat. Okay, sorry about that. I didn't make the connection.
Akshat, on your birthday, if you're thinking thoughts about water versus toilet paper, you're not having a very productive birthday, buddy. Your only question should be pineapple cake or chocolate cake for my birthday.
I can tell you a few things, Akshat. One is that US has been trying to shift to metric system for donkey's years. In fact, if you do engineering or anything in undergrad level onwards, everything is taught to you in metric system. But when the outside world immediately goes back to the foot-pound system, foot-pound second system. So this is one of those delicious ironies about United States. Its parent country, the one that introduced all this, has completely shifted to metric, that is United Kingdom. But US refuses to do so. Things still continue the way they are. As far as cleaning water instead of toilet paper, I can tell you that these days you can get these attachments called bidets, which are very, very low cost. $20, $30, $40, that you can install it yourself. And more Americans are switching to water. I have to tell you this. I mean, the younger generation is a lot more conscious about the ecological destruction that it could be created because of all the felling of wood and so on and so forth. In fact, that's one thing that I stand behind the progressives on, their concern for a clean energy. And I think Modi has actually showed the way. I mean, he's plunged headlong into this. US is still kind of there. California is right at the forefront. 1 in 3 homes now have solar panels on their houses. Believe it or not, 1 in 3. So in fact, we've got so much power that we are giving back so much power to our electricity producer that they have gone bankrupt because nobody wants to buy their power. So there are all these things that you have to consider too. Anyway, next question, please. Question is from Mohammed Obaid Ali. Is it possible, like a coalition government, PM can use? Oh, it's come back. PM can use like-minded judges in Supreme Court and preferable people as ECIs. Yeah, leave it there, please.
India a one-party state.
Why do we want to do that?
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
You can't even with the absolute majority government, because to do all this stuff you need a 2/3 majority in parliament and things like that. Of course, one of the things you can do is right now there's 32 or 38 judges in the Supreme Court, what was done to TN Session, where there was only one chief election commissioner and they appointed 2 more election commissioners. So it acted as a sort of tamper on what Session could do. You could appoint an additional 72 judges to the Supreme Court. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. And you can say you reject the basic structure judgment, saying that it's ultra-virus to the Constitution. In that every branch of the government has someone else to regulate it. In this case, it breaks the rule of external regulation, preferring internal regulation. There's lots of things you can do. But make it a one-party state, there's no way you can technically do that. Unless you have a 2/3 majority in Rajya Sabha, in Lok Sabha, and in a simple majority in at least 2/3 of the Vidhan Sabhas.
Yes. And Hardik Thanki wants to know, which nuclear reactor should India standardize, French or Russian, to meet our electricity needs and decrease coal-based electric plants?
Personally, I'd say French, because the French, this thing is the standard. The reprocessing technology especially is the standard. But for me, it's more to do with the correlation of the military and the civilian programs. Because remember, France uses the same reprocessing technology and the same fuel for its civilian reactors and its military reactors. So the economies of scale mean you don't need 2 different kinds of infrastructure. One, a military infrastructure. I mean, you have to, as per the terms of the IAEA India exception. But instead of having 2 completely different things, you can have a photocopy of the same thing just operating for the military and things like that. And the French submarine technology is a far, far superior technology because for nuclear reactors, because Russian, American, and British submarines, they have to be sliced open for the reactor to be refueled. With French submarines, you don't have to do that. It's just got a lid that's held down by gravity. You open it and you insert new rods. So French submarine reactors last for just the fuel lasts for about 7 to 10 years, depending on how you use it. Whereas American and British reactors and Russian reactors also will last between 20 to 60 years. Like the Alpha class had a 60-year reactor. Depending on what you want to do with it, right? So in terms of cost, economies of scale and things like that, the French would be the cheaper option. But again, there's a caveat. If you want as such the cheapest option just for reactors, just for energy, that would be Russian. And they're very good technology. Okay. With the French, if you want to make it cheap, you have to standardize it. Go to your worst area, which is to say the most flooding prone, the most earthquake prone, and see what is the standard of the reactor there. And you have to duplicate that same standard for every reactor to bring the cost down. Because the thing that really kills reactor costs is the standardization of each reactor to each environment and geographical condition around it. So that standardization is extremely important to achieve in a reactor. So there has to be a basic minimum, after which you can just copy every reactor.
Next question, please. Vishnu Nair wants to know, inadequate representation from right-wing people on Clubhouse discussions and the effect on public discourse.
It's fine. I don't see any inadequate representation. I just don't see very many interesting conversations happening right now, but that's a different matter.
Hardik Tanki wants to know, please tell us about your meeting with Rakesh Jhunjhunwala and what did you discuss with him? Also, Halloween look is still haunting him, I believe.
Thank you. I'm very proud of my Halloween look. With Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, I discussed how he should accept the benediction of the Blessed Virgin Mary, and he should accept Christ as his savior. Dude, like seriously, how do you go around asking people what they discuss in private? It's like it's private conversations. You don't betray confidences.
Yeah. And a shout out again. I forgot to mention one thing. When you sign up for the $99 membership, do give us your mailing address, and you have to be in the United States to get this present. Thank you so much. Next question, please.
See, shameless discrimination against in favor of Americans and discrimination against those residing in India. Very shocking.
No. That will be resolved very soon. A lot of work is going on to make sure that is also addressed. But please stay with us. Stay patient. And we will accede to your request. Aditya wants to know, how can we find solid peer-reviewed journal articles? You say you use JSTOR. How do you use it? Just use the search function, or do you subscribe to journals?
Dude, just go to JSTOR. It's got all the subscription options, yaar. ये बोलना भी पड़ता है क्या? Just go. It's now called Athena Blackwell. Just go there. It's got all the subscription options. You subscribe to what you want to. I've got a full subscription because I invest in journal articles. So it's pretty big for me because I read anything from geology to archaeology to sometimes I've tried reading medical stuff. I can't make head or tail of them, so I move on. But economics, everything. So it really depends on, like I said, invest in yourself. If you don't invest in yourself, nobody else is.
Next question from Chetan Pai. Why do you think there isn't any outrage against the farm laws in Andhra Pradesh, as Andhra is also extremely feudal with majority of landholding under the Reddy caste?
Well, because in Punjab, it is very specific. Remember, Andhra never skipped that 1990s industrialization. But because of terrorism, Punjab skipped that industrialization. So the Reddy Garus have other ways, Reddy and Naidu Garus, they have other ways of making money.
They own Punjab, most of the property in Bengaluru.
Yeah. So there's many avenues for making money in Andhra, which you don't have in Punjab.
Very, very important point that you're mentioning, Abhijit. Please continue.
So that's the main reason. So you're literally threatening the major, because there were no industries that came up. That entire PV Narasimha Rao liberalization cycle. When was Beyant Singh assassinated? 96, 97, something like that? The
Yes,
chief
yes.
minister. Yeah. So remember, that was still, terrorism was there and nobody wanted to invest there in that period. So that entire industrialization cycle was skipped completely. Now, Andhra, for all its faults, nobody can accuse Naidu Garus and Reddy Garus of ever skimping on making money. You'll never find a poor Naidu, you'll never find a poor Reddy. Okay, so the Andhra economy is infinitely more diversified, whereas in Punjab, you're hitting at the very core of feudalism out there. In Andhra, the attitude is, "ठीक है, इस पे आ गया, I've got other things to do. So what?"
Speaking of Reddies, they are very benevolent, very generous with their money. I have to tell you that I conducted the wedding of my daughter in the Livermore Temple, where there is an auditorium built by Dr. Laki Reddy, and it's called Laki Reddy Auditorium. And if it was not for his generosity, it would have not happened. I believe he's also invested in a few other things, such as a university building also. So this is important in the sense that you can make money, but you should also have the generosity to give it back to the society. Thank you very much. Next question, please.
You don't have to give it back to society if you don't want to.
Well,
if you give it back, well and good. But if you don't.
Listen, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to do that.
Whatever makes you happy. Okay. For example, whatever money I save over, I give it to dog animal rescues. Why? It makes me happy. I don't think, I'm an atheist, so I don't think I'm going to heaven, some imagined heaven and, whatever. But I just do it because it makes me happy. End of story. If it doesn't make you happy, if it doesn't make you happy, don't.
No, I'm saying,
if the only thing that makes you happy is spending on gold and sapphires and emeralds and diamonds, do it.
Anyway, again, we are diverging because there's a lot of list of questions to go through. We are at 52-minute mark. You're okay with the 1.5 hours, or you're okay, right?
No, 1.5 hours. 1.5 hours is
wonderful, wonderful. A lot of questions to go through. SREE3K, can you speak briefly about a career in international studies and how to go about building one for someone right out of the 12th grade?
Right out of the 12th grade, do not do international studies in your bachelor's. What I suggest you do is do economics or something like that, because it gives you a wider variety of options. Because remember, international studies might not work out for you. You might think you're very good at it, others might not. So always multitask. But international relations is something you can move into. Do economics, get some work experience, then get into international relations. Then once you are absolutely sure that you are good at it, you have that self-confidence, then do a master's in international relations. First, seek an internship based on economics or history if you want. That also works, but not literature. History or sociology or economics. Get or energy studies or environmental energy engineering or things like that. Do an internship in a policy thing. See if it suits you. Test the waters, because then you're keeping the maximum number of balls in play. And then if you find that people appreciate you, you've got a certain talent or flair for it. Like I said, international studies is not just about what you think. It's your ability to put the message across. It's your ability to write. It's the message. It's the ability to socialize and things like that. Because if you're antisocial, nobody really wants to listen to you. So it's a lot of things. See if you have that, and then decide if you want to invest in yourself and do a master's, or you want to find a career somewhere else. But don't specialize till you get to your master's.
Chetan Pai wants to know, now that wocism has infected the social sciences in American universities, do you think it will spread to the science departments, and how will it affect medicine and engineering?
Do you know, very scarily enough, it is the science departments driving social justice. Do you know that? Because historically, if you look at it, how many scientists do you ever know that became king or ruler or president or whatever? It has always been humanity types that have, it has always been humanities that has controlled science, because science does not control the masses, humanities does. Okay, a square, if you go, you can't win an election based on a square plus b square equals c square. What a square, what
A plus
what's
B
the
whole
thing?
square is equal to A square plus
A plus
2AB
b
plus.
square plus 2ab. Yeah.
Right.
So that's the equation. So you try campaigning on that basis, you're going to get squat. On the other hand, you go say garibi hatao, everybody will vote for you. Humanities controls the human mind. Science has always been a slave to the humanities. So, you can take great pride in being STEM and all of that, but remember, you may be 100 times more intelligent than your humanities colleague, but the humanities colleague has 100 times greater tools to screw you over than you have to screw him over.
And by the way, STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and medicine. Next question, Ninat Kashyap wants to know, how bad is the desertification of Pakistan? P.S. Pakistan Punjab looks very brown compared to Indian Punjab on Google Earth.
So to be fair, Indian Punjab, the greenery you see is quite artificial. Huh? It's one of the root causes of the desertification which you're seeing. The desertification, when it hits in another 5-6 years, is going to be brutal, because the way the cotton crop and the sugarcane crop consume water, it's an ecocide. And the number of eucalyptus trees you see, that is the worst kind of ecocide humanly possible. In Punjab, in Pakistani Punjab, it's a different matter. They never manage their water resources properly. In Indian Punjab, it's a completely different matter.
Next question from Aditya B. What are your topics of interest for future podcasts?
The benediction of the Blessed Virgin Mary.
How is Virgin Mary different from Kunti?
I don't recognize these heathen names. I only recognize Esther and the Virgin Mary and other blessed figures from the Blessed Book.
Okay, Mr. Hyde, come back to Dr. Jekyll mode.
Okay.
SSSS. Why doesn't Australia manufacture or design electronics, automobiles, and aeroplanes, etc., like other Western countries?
They do. Australia doesn't do big things, but you look at the subcomponents and things like that. They teamed up with BAE to design some very important radar modules. They're producing the Loyal Wingman drone, which is the critical accompaniment for making the F-35 a huge success. They actually produce some very, very interesting, very, very niche things as suits a small country of about 35 odd million people.
Oh, by the way, I must tell you, Australia has developed, in my opinion, one of the best graphic softwares going around. In fact, all our graphics, right from the last 3-4 years, we've been using products of this company. It's called Canva. It's Canvas without the letter S, canva.com. Design is free to some extent. And then if you need the additional features, you need to subscribe. I think the subscription is a pittance, in my opinion, for all the things that it provides. Great product. So Australia does do a few things, and it does them very well. Oh, Monsieur Cat is there.
Yes, this is Aprameya.
Aprameya, you didn't call him Tom.
Why the hell would I give him some Christian name? Look, this is Aprameya. He's a very cute cat.
I realize
he's also
now
an extremely naughty cat. He's a very, very naughty cat. Very naughty boy.
All right. Aprameya, bye. Talk to you later. Next question, please. Aditya B wants to know, have you ever explored read philosophy? Which school of thought, both Indian and Western, do you relate to?
Look, I started off with Western philosophy and it bored the living daylights out of me. Because honestly, I'd reached the sort of conclusion phase because I had a very Occidental education. And I was kind of the weirdo in school, East or West, in India or abroad, because my sort of interests were very different from your normal interest kind of thing. I got introduced to Indian philosophy much later. And, there within the Charvaka school, I kind of, not entirely, not 100%, because, in Hinduism, you can pick, choose. There's no, you have to comply kind of thing. But I generally found Charvaka was the sort of, it suited me the best. Let's put it that way.
Next question, please. Shivam Goyal wants to know, Abhijit, will Biden remove the ban from Iran in his term?
Well, if he's coherent and cogent enough for more than 2 minutes to be able to do that. I mean, he's in serious advanced dementia or schizophrenia. We don't know what.
Hey, speaking of that, what really do you think happened in that submarine accident just off of the coast of China?
It's very natural. See, it's very, very natural. You can't map 100% of the seafloor with any great accuracy. Because remember, mapping of the seafloor requires high-powered sonar and things like that. And most countries won't let you map coastal areas near them and things like that, right? Within territorial waters, marine waters and things. So you have to be very careful when doing these things. And large parts of the this thing, because it's a 3D thing. It's not 2D where it's only turn right, turn left, or go straight, or take a U-turn. It's also go up, go down, and you don't know what is where and things like that. The next thing is when you're underwater. What is your positioning system specifically? Right? You have no way of gauging where exactly you are without GPS coordinates, because the positioning system is again based on when you send a little probe up, get your GPS coordinates and things like that. You can roughly estimate quite accurately where you're going. But, you can skip it by about 100, 200 meters, and 100, 200 meters with an underwater mountain doing covert operations without any kind of signals being emitted by you. And therefore, no external visibility at all. Because remember, it's a solid steel hull. It's HY80 steel, which is several inches thick. You're literally in a metal tube with zero visibility outside. It's very, very difficult.
Next question, please. And Yom Kippur. Interesting. How did architects build the Champs-Élysées Avenue in France in such a precise grid and symmetry? There weren't any satellites to get it.
Why do you think you need satellites to get it done, boss?
Yeah, I thought so too.
Why? You don't need satellites to get it done. They managed to build the pyramids, which are bigger than anything in the Champs-Élysées, with extraordinary accuracy in the Bronze Age, 4,500 years back.
Absolutely.
Why? You don't need it. Look, that getting things straight is Stone Age technology. It isn't even Bronze Age technology. It is older than that. You go to Teotihuacan, for example. Even though it was only built in 1000 AD, it was still a Stone Age culture. It was a Neolithic culture. They did not know bronze. They did not know iron at all. So, not relevant.
In fact, I think most of the construction happened under Napoleon III. Rochambeau was the architect who did all the stuff, if I remember correctly. So it is fairly recent, 200 years, 220 years.
And remember, there were new Paris, well, technically old Paris, but new old Paris was planned so that Napoleon's cannons had perfect shots of rioters when they came out. It was all planned. Paris is a city planned for shooting down rioters with cannons.
Next question, please. Anmol Kaushik wants to know, according to Dr. Swami on PGurus, India should launch a military op to evict Chinese from Ladakh before China can grab more land. What is your take, Abhijit?
I think given our current state, that is extremely unwise. You have to, build a lot of diplomatic support. The question is, will Biden, first of all, do you trust Biden? And is Biden going to create that kind of diversion necessary for you to take the action that you have to take? Getting into a war right now, because look, when you get into a war, you also have to think about de-escalation. You can't just go in with open-ended objectives and think if I do A, he will do B. What if he does R instead, or X or Y or Z instead? Okay, and then if it goes in a way you don't want it to go, how are you going to beat the retreat without losing face? You have to think all these things through. So I would disagree with Dr. Swami on this.
Next question, please. Harsh Bajaj. If hydrogen fuel cell powered electric engines are the future of aircraft engine, will more nations have engine tech, and why is Indian companies and government not investing?
Indian companies are investing. If you
Yes.
read, Reliance has made a huge investment in hydrogen. It is a backup. So hydrogen will be used for certain things. Solar will be used for certain other things. Nuclear will possibly be used for another set of things. So we are doing that. Now remember, engine technology and the crystal blades and things like that required for it are a completely different subset from storage, from processing and storage technology. Usage technology is engine. Processing, storage, and discharge is a different stream.
Next question, please. Yom Kippur again. Just like we see conservative countries like Saudi and UAE progress socially, would we see any already progressive countries regress?
You've already seen it.
France.
You've seen Brunei go back to Sharia. You've seen within the UAE, you've seen Sharjah go to Sharia. Sharjah once used to be, everybody could drink and everything. Everybody used to go there for cricket matches. Now it's a shithole that nobody wants to go to anymore. They go to Dubai for cricket matches. They don't go to Sharjah anymore. You remember all those pictures of Anil Kapoor and Dawood Ibrahim sipping champagne in Sharjah and things like that? They've regressed. Brunei has regressed. Why? Because Sharjah isn't able to produce the goods anymore. Dubai has gone way, way ahead. Brunei is racked with misrule. So when you know you can't deliver the goods, you go back to religion. So that's also happened. So there have been progressive countries regressing. America is the classic case. France is very clear about certain things. They produce a lot of decadence, but they export it to other people. America imported French trash. Essentially, they imported French radioactive garbage, like Derrida and Foucault and trash like that. And look where America is. California is the world's biggest open garbage dump today. Fuel prices, crime, everything going out of control out there. So tell me, how do you consider critical race theory to be progressive from any angle? It is think of it as a reverse apartheid. See, a very good test of if something is progressive or not is if you replace the words or interchange the words. Now you replace white with black in CRT and see how it reads. It'll read like an apartheid manifesto from the worst days of D.F. Malan and Hendrik Verwoerd. So it doesn't hold up to scrutiny. So America is the classic case.
Next question, please. Dr. Karan Gupta, please share the Indian Heritage Rice Company.
Ayopa, will you WhatsApp me, sir? I will share it with you. Sorry. Yeah. I forgot. This question was asked. Sorry, Karan. This question was asked the last time and I forgot about it.
I'll do it.
Definitely. Yeah, please. If you WhatsApp it to me, I'll remember. There are two places I've found one plus one more. So I will give you both. I will give the answer to Shri by tomorrow.
Yeah, and we'll put it as part of this.
Yeah.
Will do. Chaitanya Naidu, what is the PLA Air Force doing incursions in the Malaysian EEZ around Borneo?
The PLA is doing incursions across the board everywhere. It's not just the Malaysian thing around Borneo, it's around Taiwan especially. But they're doing it all over the bloody place. Why? Because they're testing. They just want to keep testing. They want to play wolf. Till one day when they finally decide to invade, where you'll think it's just another test happening, and no, it won't be a test anymore.
That's what happened to Hong Kong. You can see it play out. Nirupam Paul, AIM, your views on future security threat in Northeast India?
Very simply, the church. Very simply, the church. Okay, the way they've been using religion to kind of fund and create their own little this thing, you are going to end up what the Rohingyas are to Bangladesh. You're going to see that in India. India has much better ways of dealing with these things than the kind of brute force that the military uses. But this is going to be one of the biggest issues of our time. It's good in that sense the Northeast doesn't get much attention, but it's only a matter of time before New York Times, Washington Post, and co. Turn their attention there.
Next question, Malyaban Bhattacharya. Hi Abhijit, do you foresee Bangladesh going the Pakistan way, where they adopt Islamic theocracy the moment Sheikh Hasina goes and is replaced by Khalida Zia?
Khalida Zia is finished. She's not replacing squat anymore. Will they go that way? Possibly, yes. I think when you play with Islamism the way the army is out there, you are unleashing forces beyond your control. So you will see some cycles of Islamization happen. Is it going to go the Pakistan way? I don't know. But it really depends on how well the economy performs. Can Sheikh Hasina keep delivering the economic progress that she has been delivering? If so, very good. Is it fast enough? That's another big question, because right now what's holding them back is atrocious and severe corruption. So all of that has to be tackled.
A follow-up question for you, Abhijit. How much of role did India play in the current economic resurgence in Bangladesh?
Almost zero.
Okay, I heard
Almost
something
zero.
else, but I just wanted to confirm.
Really, we played nothing.
Okay,
we played nothing. If somebody is telling you we did not.
Well, what's happening is...
The only thing it realistically did was how smartly Sheikh Hasina managed to keep the army on her side and outmaneuver Khalida Zia permanently, which allowed for the kind of stability that allowed for businesses to grow in Bangladesh. But you look at Bangladesh's economic policies, once upon a time, the same things India was good at, textiles, ceramics, and things like that, Bangladesh has completely hijacked those markets.
Yeah, I thought that was there was also help from Indian companies who have now started putting their own plants.
No, there's no help from Indian companies.
No, they are going there.
India, no. They're not moving there to help Bangladesh.
They're moving there because
they're moving there to help themselves.
Yes, I agree. See, the thing is, previously they used to rely on the Bangladeshi labor to come work in their plants in India, but now, thanks to states like Tamil Nadu, who are always trying to see how they can make a quick buck. Now, those companies like Tirupur, for example, many of them are establishing their own companies in Bangladesh. It's pretty easy, I heard.
Because you don't have the kind of government interference. Your freedom of action is very good. Yes. Bangladeshi labor is probably much, much, much better than Indian labor. There is still a lot of Bangladeshis in India because remember, there's still not enough jobs in Bangladesh as opposed to a population. But see, like I said in answer to the previous question, it depends on how much growth Sheikh Hasina can now deliver. There's lots of things she can do to accelerate growth, like reduce corruption, because corruption is so endemic in Bangladesh, it's not even funny.
Well, I also
lots of things that can be done.
I'm sorry, I also heard that I keep thinking you're done and then I jump in before you're finished. Sorry about that. I also heard that now there is population control quietly being ushered across Bangladesh.
There is, because the cost of having children has gone up. There are things that you have to do. So it's not coercive population control, it's cooperative population control.
Next question, please. Dr. Karan Gupta again. Do you prefer wheat and lentils from South Central India, given high pesticide and chemical fertilizer usage in the North Indian belt?
No, I buy all my lentils and things from, I'll give you those two websites. That's where I'm buying most of my things from. There's certain things which you can't help. So for example, I get my Rajma sent to me from a very specific area in Jammu. So I have to literally beg, borrow and steal and ask people when they come from that part to get me Rajma and things like that. But see, I curate what I eat very carefully from certain sources and certain regions.
Viewers, to add to that, look for people who claim that they are using Jivamrutam instead of fertilizers to grow their crop and produce. Jivamritam is done primarily out of cow dung and gomutra, and then you add some jaggery to it and one other ingredient that is escaping me right now, and then you put it in a vat and you let it to ferment, and that becomes a fertilizer, and this has got better yield, and it's also kinder and gentler on the earth, so that your repeat crops will be much more prosperous. This is something that is scientifically proven. Jivamrutam. Next question, please. Aditya B. Which overseas intelligence agency, excluding ISI, is doing solid work for their country, and why? Why does RAW fare well in comparison?
RAW does not fare very well in comparison. Remember, when you're a third world country, I've told you this before, it's not just about poverty on the streets and dirt on the roads. It's extremely low human capital. The KGB is still, well, the FSB is fantastic. Chinese intelligence does a fantastic job of stealing secrets. Japanese and Taiwanese intelligence are fantastic at keeping tabs on China. German intelligence is fantastic at electronic intercepts and things like that. French intelligence is superb for a lot of things, including industrial espionage. British intelligence is vastly eroded now. British and American intelligence has become far too politicized. But Israeli intelligence is still absolutely top notch. There are lots of intelligence agencies. India is nowhere up there. We have a very typical third world intelligence service. The ISI is unique in that when you have a kind of semi-apartheid state, in this case an elite state where the elites control so much of the wealth, you can create these bubbles of excellence. But even there in the ISI, the problem is there's too much wishful thinking, which is more problematic at the strategic level, but at the tactical level, they're superb.
Maliban has a follow-up question. What's going to happen to the ripple effects at Assam, West Bengal, vis-a-vis illegal Bangladeshi immigrants plus Rohingyas?
What?
Ripple effect in Assam and West Bengal from illegal Bangladeshi immigrants and Rohingyas.
Well, they're not coming in. So we have to thank our gods that they're not coming in. Because if they started coming in, then, it's not going to be good for anyone involved. But, again, these what-if questions, if it becomes a problem, I really don't want to go there till it becomes a problem.
Before we go to the next question, I think Abhijit is trying to get something for him. Let's just give him a minute to get... are you set, Abhijit? Are you done?
Yeah, sorry. These kittens are munching on my wires.
Uh-oh. All right, yes. Let's go to the next question.
1 second. I want to show you this. See this?
Yeah. Oh, you got two. Aprameya and who?
Aprameya and Alamelu.
Alamelu, okay.
They're so naughty. They've turned my entire house into a garbage dump because they just chew through everything and they're too cute. You can't really yell at them.
Well, at least the rats are no longer frequenting your home.
There were no rats to begin with. But if there were any, trust me, I mean, these two are a handful even for me. The rats would kind of commit, they don't even need to get killed. Rats would look at these two and commit suicide.
Mandar Karnik, Abhijit, your comments on why we are going in for so many different types of submarines after Scorpions. Strategically, is it better?
We discussed this before, Mandar. I said, focus on the Scorpions. You should have just built, 25 Scorpions, or you now negotiate with the French. Say you buy back 6 Scorpions and we'll buy 25 of the Barracudas from you. This is the optimal time to do it. You buy 50% of Areva, which is the French nuclear power company. We don't do all these things, okay? Because nobody's keeping their eye on the ball. That's very, very problematic.
Dr. Karan Gupta again. Tariq Fatah says the only permanent solution to Pak is to break it and balkanize it into a landlocked Punjab. Your opinion, and if not, what is the solution?
Yes and no. The issue is smaller countries are not less trouble. Look at Afghanistan and look how problematic it is. So how do you know a terror-racked small Punjab isn't going to be as reactionary as, say, North Korea is? No, I think what we need in Pakistan is a perpetual civil war.
Next question. Nimit Gupta, is Chinese president going the Hitler way?
No. He's going
Why
the
do you say
Stalin way.
no? He's going the Stalin way.
He's stupid, but he's not that stupid. Though, to be fair to Stalin, Stalin wasn't stupid. But no, Hitler was an extraordinarily stupid man. Never forget that. And the entire the cabinet of the Third Reich were all opiate addicts. These people aren't. So he's not going the Hitler way. He's making a lot of mistakes. I would say the closest comparison of Xi Jinping is Brezhnev. Thoroughly corrupt, thoroughly incompetent, but marginally competent in certain things.
Yes, Chandan wants to know, does urbanism promote femininity in society?
Femininity, what does that mean? Or is it feminism?
Actually, I don't know if it is misspelled. Femininity. Is there a word called femininity?
Well, be clear about what it is, please, and I'll answer that question.
Yeah, read it before you hit the send button on your smartphone. Jai Krishnan Lal, your thoughts on the safety of Mullai Periyar Dam?
I haven't looked into it, sorry.
Next question, please. Malyaban again, according to you, what should Delhi do to tackle the problem of air pollution as well as pollution in the Yamuna?
Start implementing the bloody emission controls. Ban crop burning. This whole thing started in the 80s when you allowed Punjab to start growing rice in a bloody wheat belt. That needs to stop. Start charging water at exorbitant rates. It's that simple. And provide them a way out. Tell them, if you get out of rice, I'll provide you a high yield crop like avocados and artichokes and things like that, where you can make 3-4 times the amount of money.
Yes, true. Next question, please. Okay, I have the question. I can ask you the next question. Mr. Lee wants to know, has Dhanush delivered an Oscar-winning performance in Karnan? Is he building a foundation for a future political career? Okay, so you don't know.
I don't. I know who Dhanush is, but I'm sorry, I don't much watch vernacular cinema.
Bunty Nefster wants to know how China can survive an international isolation. Can they sustain themselves? Aren't they going backwards? They are going backwards for sure.
Look, their economy is ultimately in deep trouble. There are deep systemic problems. They are past the point of no return. When is it going to happen? I don't know. My estimate is around 20-30 years. I think their reserves will see them through that. Now, international isolation is simply not going to happen. Forget about it. During the peak of COVID, when Trump was forcing everybody to get into their own manufacturing and create strategic backup cycles to bypass China, that was a real possibility. But then he lost the election. So Biden is now, there's no longer any talk of containing China or creating backup production, even though China has created such a massive semiconductor shortage. In spite of that, you know, all the lines that you're queuing up now, the wait list for the next car that you're going to buy is why? Because China is throttling semiconductor production. In spite of that, people are not getting into semiconductors the way they should. Why? Because China can just ramp up production overnight, and then all your investments in it will be bankrupted. And as per WTO guidelines, once you've given certain quotas away, you can't take those quotas away. Same with rare earths. Rare earths aren't rare. But the moment you start producing it, you can't block Chinese rare earths from coming in the market, and China can do a price point entry that's much lower. So there's many, not to mention all the compromised governments, like the president of America is essentially a Chinese stooge for all effects and purposes. His son is compromised in a way nobody else has been compromised in the past. So all of this, when you combine it, that isolation of China is not happening. There's still many games in play which you can go on continuing to use, much like, Liam Neeson and that bank that he collapsed. What was the bank, remember, in Singapore that he collapsed?
Oh, Standard Chartered.
No, not Standard. Standard Chartered never collapsed.
I don't know. I thought it was Standard Chartered. Okay.
No. Next.
Okay, Bhaskar Jayaraman, no defense
Cricket
like
question.
Shamim.
I don't take cricket.
The second part is interesting. Retweets to Brahmin hating tweets. George A. Sajan, why right isn't making a big deal of this?
Well, I don't know. Send it to me. If you can forward this particular question to me, I need to click on
that link.
Link and find it, because I can't click on the link here. Yeah.
Right. I'll send it to you. I'll copy and paste it and just send
so
you that part.
Shri, you have to send me two things. One is the heritage rice. You have to remind me these things, and you have to send me this particular question with the link.
Will do. All right. Next question, please. Rajesh Sharma wants to know, theoretically speaking, why shouldn't India be broken up into smaller nations? Why is a unified India important?
Very important question. Would it be economically better for some parts of India? Yes. But would it increase endemic warfare? Yes. Because historically, larger political units reduce the amount of internal strife. Okay? Because all the kind of wars here, how do you know that the Republic of Karnataka won't attack the Republic of Tamil Nadu over the Kaveri waters? Okay? Or that the Republic of Uttarakhand won't be attacked by an alliance of the Republic of UP and the Republic of Bihar and the Republic of Bengal over the Ganga and Yamuna waters. So, or if the Republic of UP attacks Punjab over crop burning. So, historically, you look at it, the bigger the empire, the more it has externalized conflict to the peripheries and reduced conflict internally. That is a very, very important thing. This is why you need to read that book by Ian Morris, War, What Is It Good For?
Sashwat wants to know, why is Singapore not trapped in middle income economy like China, as it's not a full democracy too? Is Sangam Tamil a high-end state?
No, Sangam Tamil is not a high-end state by any stretch of the imagination. Singapore is not trapped in a middle-income economy. Why? Very simply because they focused on manufacturing very, very heavily. And they went on improving their standards throughout, keeping it as pro-market as humanly possible. They didn't they never threw money after bad. They didn't go after bad investments like building ghost cities, investing in bad projects. There was strict accountability for what they did. So wherever they invested, the investment was extremely successful. And today, Singapore, if you look at the other high-income economies, Luxembourg or Liechtenstein or Norway, it's either because of oil and gas or because of money laundering. Singapore has done it entirely based on human investment. And that is truly remarkable.
Okay, we are coming up to 1.5 hours. So let's see how quickly we can go through a few questions before we wind up. Kiran Prabhu, I have some thoughts on some thought experiments I keep gaming in my head. What does it take diplomatically to expel the CCP from the UN and declare them a rogue state?
You can't technically. It has to be done through the accreditation committee of the UN, which you replace it with Taiwan technically. But, there is no procedure laid out right now for revoking a veto powers from a permanent member of the Security Council.
Dark memes. Billi kutta saath mein kaise rehte hain?
Very well. The dogs have become very protective of the kitties. Huh? The kitties do whatever they want with the doggies, and the doggies only whine and whimper and run away if they can't deal with it for too long. But mostly they play very well with the kitties. In the beginning, for the first 2 weeks, they were a bit, I wouldn't say aggro, but they were like, who the hell are you? Why are you coming into my territory? And when the kitties used to attack the dog food before the dogs had eaten their own food, they'd be like, now the dogs wait till the cats have finished eating as much as they can of the dog's food, then they eat their own food. They're super protective of the kittens right now. Aparajita literally mummies these two. And they get away with murder with her. Huh? And mind you, Aparajita being in Desi Kuttas, females are much more aggressive. So she is the aggro one. Advait is the chilled, relaxed kind of guy. Sab chalta hai guy. With her, she's become super protective of these two and she keeps playing with them. Sometimes, because she can't climb up the cat house, obviously, she goes outside the cat house when they're sleeping and she starts whining and pawing the cat house saying, "Come down, I want to play with you."
Nice family you've got going there. Last question now. Nima Norbu Sherpa wants to know your views on Sainik shells and input to national defense.
Huh?
Sainik
What are
schools.
Sainik?
Sainik schools. Sainik schools. There's a Sainik school. You've heard of them?
I mean, yeah, but what is the input to national defense specifically?
Nima Norbu Sherpa, I'm sorry, we need a little bit
You
more.
need to be much more detailed in what you're asking.
Yeah. And I think let's call it a last question. Sandeep K. Why are Lee Kuan Yew, Deng Xiaoping not discussed or celebrated in Indian academia media? In Osmania University, one can see extra academic classes with Stalin Mao on background banner.
Because they don't want to compare the Nehru Gandhi family with anyone who did anything quite well. They only want to compare them with mass murderers who achieved things, because in comparison, then you can make the claim that, maybe Nehru and Indira Gandhi didn't achieve that much, but at least they didn't kill so many people.
Absolutely. Last thing before we wrap up today, I am watching Squid Game, and the main character in Squid Game, the guy who's a gambler, loser, blah, 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 he is also the main character in Chief of Staff. And I highly recommend you watching Chief of Staff. It's also on Netflix. When I saw this,
What's it about?
Chief of Staff is about politics completely. You should be you should be watching it right
You
after
need to send me all these recommendations. You have to WhatsApp it to me.
I will.
Because
Chief of Staff, I really liked it.
Netflix menus are so big, you don't know what to watch and what not to watch.
Right. I mean, Korean web series are all really, really good, man. I tell you, I really like them. So,
yes.
All right. Okay, then. And Vetri Whale, now you can respond back with whatever you want to respond back.
Vetri Whale to one and all.
And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Some of your questions have not been answered, but they will be answered in the next week in the order they were received today. So don't despair. Do come back. And Abhijit, as always, thanks. And we will see you very soon. Namaskar.
Next week. Namaskar.